Are you alive and awake this morning? Woo. Yeah, all right. How would you think? We'll just leave that alone. Hey, lots of things happening at Southeast. I just want to plug a couple things. Last week we had the movie event. If you missed it, you missed a really good party. It was a really good time. We all had a lot of fun. Not this week. There's nothing happening this Sunday. But next Sunday is the Flight Kind event. So make sure you mark your calendars. Make sure that you put that on your calendars, and make sure that you're inviting neighbors and friends to come to that. It should be a lot of fun. The weather looks like it's going to be really good, as predicted by Jim. So if it's not, it's his fault. So anyways, that's a couple things coming up. Also, don't forget, if you have neighbor kids or grandkids or your own kids or friends of your kids or whoever that might be a child, we have a VBS program coming up. Make sure you're inviting them to the VBS program June 26th, 27th, and 28th as well. What? I don't know what ages. I invited Ken, so any age, I guess. Young people. I don't know. What's the ages? Does anybody know the ages for the VBS program? And there's nobody upstairs right now that is working on the VBS program. They're all downstairs. What's that?
Age
3 through 5th grade. Is that right? 3 through 5th grade. So, but older kids can come too. You know, why not? We can have fun with them too. So, but 3 through 5th grade is what we're hosting. So, make sure that you invite the kids in your neighborhoods and that kind of thing to come and be a part of that. If your kids have friends, or your friends have kids, or however you want to do that, make sure you invite them as well. So, lots of things going on. Make sure that you're getting involved. Also, make sure that you're trying to help out with any of those events that you can. So, make sure that you're getting involved here at Southeast, and lots of things to get involved with. Let's open up our Bibles to Daniel. We're back in the book of Daniel again. Daniel, this time we're going to be in chapter 2. So Daniel, we're going to start in verse 1. We're going to go through verse 13. I know it's kind of odd place to cut it off, but that's where we're going to go to. Daniel 2, verses 1 through 13. And I remember last week I was talking about how much I really, really love the book of Daniel. We're going to see this week, I was talking about how this could be a real good feature film, or at least daytime drama, right? And there's a lot going on here. And we're going to see some of that drama kind of pull out right here in chapter 2, in particular in these first 13 verses. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him. Then the king commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dreams. So they came in, and they stood before the king. And the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans said to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the word from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins. But if you show the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore, show me the dream and its interpretation. They answered a second time and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show its interpretation. The king answered and said, I know with certainty that you are trying to gain time, because you see that the word from me is firm. If you do not make the dream known to me, there is but one sentence for you. You have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the times change. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me its interpretation. The Chaldeans answered the king and said, there is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand. For no great and powerful king has asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king asks is difficult, and no one can show it to the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. Because of this, the king was angry and very furious. and commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed. So the decree went out, and the wise men were about to be killed, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. See what I'm talking about? This is a feature film. I mean, this is powerful stuff. I mean, you could see some director's interpretation of whatever the dream might be, right? And you could see them writing the script for this, right? I mean, there is a lot going on here, and this king is demanding interpretations of the dream. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's look at verse 1 and 2. In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him. Apparently, he's struggling with insomnia, or at least really severe nightmares, right? I mean, he's got some serious issues happening, and he's not getting sleep. Then the king commanded that the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans be summoned to tell the king his dreams. I understand magicians, enchanters, and sorcerers, but to be honest, I don't understand Chaldeans. We'll get to that. So they came in and they stood before the king. So in these first two verses, we have the king having a dream and no sleep, right? He's really struggling with that. And he's calling in everybody that he can think of that might be able to tell him what these dreams are about and help him find relief. Now, I've had bad dreams in my life. Has anybody else had bad dreams before and lost some sleep over them? I mean, we have bad dreams. And I remember as a kid thinking how great it will be when I grow up. You know, how great will it be when I grow up? Because when I grow up and I'm an adult, I won't have bad dreams. Because bad dreams plague little children, right? I mean, that's some of the scariest stuff we got going on. That and the nest of ants that we get caught up in every once in a while. But we have bad dreams as kids. And I thought as a child, when I grow up and I become a daddy, I'm not going to have bad dreams anymore. I'll never be afraid. I'll never have bad dreams. I'll never have tears. I'll have no stress. I'll have no worries, except for why the Broncos didn't win the Super Bowl. But I found out it doesn't work that way, right? I found out it didn't work that way when I became a grown-up and when I became a daddy and I became an adult. This stuff just didn't go away. There's more things to be worried about. There's more things to be stressed about. I also found out that bad dreams don't go away. Now, I did find as I grew older, the fear of darkness became something that I was more accustomed to. But the fear of the unknown is still very, very fearful, right? We always fear the unknown. And that happens in our dreams. Sometimes we get interrupted in our dreams and we don't know how they end. We don't know what's going to happen next. So the fear of the unknown lingers in our hearts well after we've grown up. I want to be set free from bad dreams. I understand where the king's coming from. I want to be set free from my bad dreams, don't you? I understand where the king's coming from. He doesn't want to have these bad dreams. He wants to get back to restful sleep and be set free from them. In verse 3 it says, "And the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans said to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the word from me is firm, if you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation." Catch that. You do not tell me the dream and its interpretation. Not just the interpretation, but he wants them to tell him the dream as well. "You shall be torn limb from limb, and your houses shall be laid in ruins." That's a pretty serious statement. I've worked for people like this guy, I think. Have you guys ever worked for somebody that was like this? I've worked for people that insisted that I have a crystal ball. You know, and I always wanted to tell them whenever they would ask me, you know, what's going to happen to this? And, you know, you tell me this. And I was like, you know, my crystal ball fell off the table last week and broke. I'm sorry. I have a new one on order. You know, I don't know. I can't predict the future. But I've worked for people like this where they want to know. And they want all the answers. And they want you to do this and they want you to do that. And it gets frustrating. And then when you don't have the answers, they look at you like they're ready to release the hounds, right? I picture them sitting in their mansion up on the hill, looking at me living down in the ghetto, and they're releasing their hounds to scavenge for the weaklings, But I am grateful. I am grateful that only one of our elders here at Southeast has a dog, so that won't happen. But no, seriously, I've worked for people like that, and I've been stressed like that before. So I kind of, even though I understand the king's point that he doesn't want the bad dreams, I also understand the Chaldean's plea because I have limits. I understand what those limits are. But seriously, in this scripture, I had to ask myself, who are the Chaldeans? Who are the Chaldeans? I mean, we talk about the magicians, the sorcerers, all these magic people, and then the Chaldeans. So I looked it up. And you know what it said? The Chaldeans were people from the region of Chaldea. Fascinating, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating. They're from Chaldea. I would have never guessed. Which happens to be where Abraham was from, if you remember your Old Testament, but we won't go back there. They're from the land of Ur. So I dug a little deeper. I said, what makes these Chaldeans so important to the king? I mean, they're not producing magic tricks. They're not sorcerers. They're not magicians. They're something else. Because he doesn't refer to them as that same group. He lumps them together with them, but he refers to them as the Chaldeans. So who were the Chaldeans? Well, they were considered to be wise people. They were very wise because they were able to grow food in an area of land where there was no water. See, they developed a sophisticated system of dikes and canals to irrigate desert land. They drew water from lakes and rivers around the area and brought it in there. And not only were they able to farm this land, they were known by all sorts of kings for their fruit and for their barley and for their wheat. They were known for the crops that they produced. Kings favored the production that they had, the types of foods that they were able to grow were considered far above other fruits, especially their fruit trees. And this went on until the time of the Turks. The Turks weren't as interested and did away with the canal systems in the farmland. This went on for a very long time. And the Chaldeans were credited for having built these canals and structured this system. These, if you think about it, these Chaldeans were the computer scientists of the day. Okay? They weren't just simple farmers. These were the Bill Gates and the Stephen Hawkings of the times. These were some of the most intelligent people around. These were the geniuses. These were the thinkers and the dreamers. These were the ones that had the initiative to move outside of the box and come up with ideas that people hadn't seen. People didn't understand. They came up with this massive system of irrigation with little more than some makeshift hand tools and a dream, an idea. King Nebuchadnezzar is going to kill Stephen Hawking, or at least the Stephen Hawking of his time. He really wants this dream interpreted. The king is desperate. But it's not all gloom and doom, right? The king gives them some hope. Nebuchadnezzar gives them a little glimmer of hope. He says in verse 6, "But if you show the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore, show me the dream and its interpretation." Now, I've worked for people like this too. Have you? I've worked for people that promised me really big things and lots of riches and honor if I would just help them become more rich. Maybe it was lies. Maybe I should have read the fine print. You know, it's all too often they were going to make me rich after they were rich enough. A lot of times people like that, they're never rich enough. They never help you out because they're too busy trying to gain their own wealth. But maybe for the Chaldeans, the king is being upfront and honest. Maybe he's being straightforward with them. Maybe he will make them uber rich and they can have a mansion, or at least the McMansion, right? Maybe he's being straight up and honest with them. For me, that fairy tale never happened, but I did learn a great lesson. Now, this is going to sound cynical, and I know that, but I rarely ever, if at all, put my trust in the likes of men anymore. I've heard many promises of wealth and honor that was to inspire me to do more and to be greater and to work harder and to work longer. But I don't trust it. I know it sounds cynical, and I'm not trying to be cynical, but I think more importantly is what I do put my trust in. I put my trust in God. Because God doesn't let me down. He doesn't break the promise. What I tell myself is, if God wants me to be wealthy, and He wants me to have money, and He wants me to live in a mansion or whatever, then He will make that happen. And if God doesn't want that to happen, that's okay too. Because He has plans for me, and I trust that. But I don't put my trust in the words of men. I put my trust in a God. The one God. I think that's what Daniel does. See, I don't want to be so wrapped up in what this world thinks is important that I forget who I really serve. And sometimes I think I just get so wrapped up in trying to make another dollar, or trying to have a newer car, or trying to, buy my wife a new present, or get my kids what they want, that I get so wrapped up in that I forget who I am as a Christian. I think the Chaldeans got caught up in the fact that they were so super smart, that they were so very wise. I think that's what got them in trouble. I don't want to spend so much time looking inward, but upward. I struggle with that on a daily basis, but I keep telling myself, you know what? Today I am better at it than I was yesterday. And tomorrow I will be better than I am today. Because I can look back 15 years and go, I have come a long ways. Trust me, you guys wouldn't have wanted to know me 15 years ago. My wife barely wanted to marry me. Well, she married me 16 years ago. It was that first year of marriage. My fault. The other 15 were hers. But we struggle. We get caught up in this. And I think the Chaldeans have gotten caught up in this idea that, well, we're just so smart. We can just relax and just be smart. But you can't. You can't just relax and be smart. You have to work at it. And we can't just relax and be Christians. We have to work at it. It demands work. Now I'm going to paraphrase verses 7 through 9 because it's a lot of the same. Okay? So it's these Chaldeans saying, hey, king, if you'll just tell us what your dream was, we'll tell you the interpretation. And the king's saying, no, you don't get it. I'm not going to tell you what the dream is. If you can't tell me what the dream is, you're a hoax. And that's it. The king's exposing them. He's exposing them as not being very wise. But I think the Chaldeans kind of recover here a little bit. They come up with a statement that's pretty wise in some ways. So I'm not sure all their intelligence is gone. They come up with a really solid answer. In verse 10, the Chaldeans answered the king and said, there is not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand. For no great and powerful king has asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or Chaldean. The thing that the king asks is difficult, and no one can show it to the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. The Chaldean's answer is pretty smart. No one can do what you ask. Only gods. They might be onto something there, right? I think they're onto something there. They're on the start of something. That maybe this wisdom that they think that they had, that they think that they came up with, maybe wasn't from them at all. And they're saying, the wisdom you seek is much greater than us, much greater than what we know, and it's only a God that's going to know that. Unfortunately, they don't know the God. Daniel does, but they don't. can't help but wonder what happened to the Chaldeans. These are the people that built the irrigation systems. These were the dreamers. These were the shakers. These were the makers and the happening people. These were the ones that made things happen in their time. These were the ones that said there was no task that was too impossible to do. And now they're kind of set back. Is it just a bad attitude on their part? Or is it they have weak faith in their own skills? Or is the task really, really impossible for a human being? You know, where have all the Chaldeans gone? You could write a song about that, right? Where have all the Chaldeans gone? Wisdom long time passing. You could write a song. Of course, I know that tune's taken, but what has happened to this great and mighty nation? This great and mighty people, this wise people? I think that they didn't recognize where their wisdom came from. They didn't recognize the gift that they were given, and they didn't take care of it. What happened to these geniuses that could do anything? In verse 12 it says, because of this the king was angry and very furious, and commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed. So the decree went out, and the wise men were about to be killed. And they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. So the king, he's furious. And I understand this. He feels like he's been duped, right? He had the most intelligent, the best enchanters, the sorcerers, the magicians, the Chaldeans. He had the best of the best people there to tell him how to run things. And they can't interpret one dream. They can't tell him one dream. He feels robbed. So he makes a decree. What's a decree? Well, I looked it up for you guys. Decree. In the ancient world, declarations, usually in written form, by rulers or other persons in authority directing the conduct of especially significant matters for communities or individuals. A decree. Basically, he said, this is the law. And here comes the hammer. Nobody is wise. All people that think they're wise are going to die. All people I think are wise are going to die. And that's it. That's what he says. He's mad. He is raging mad. The king is very serious. It's not a light-hearted matter for him. He is haunted by these dreams, and he wants to know what they mean. He seeks to have the wise men killed based on the incompetence of the Chaldeans. This includes Daniel and his friends. All wise men are held in the highest regard, but not higher than the Chaldeans, apparently. And the king figures if the Chaldeans can't figure it out, nobody can. So to kill them all. So what about Daniel? Remember, he's this devout follower of God. And last week we read about how he will not defile himself. Right? Because he honors God so much. Will God just stand by and let him and his friends die? Will chariots of fire come sweeping down and save Daniel and his friends in the last minute? Will 10,000 angels hold out their wings and cover Daniel and his friends and protect them from the king? Yeah, we'll have to wait till next week. So, if you will, pray with me. Lord, Father in heaven, protect us from our dreams. Let them be dreams of honor towards you, Lord. Let our dreams serve your purpose and not our own desires. Lord, we do not always understand why we are put in difficult situations. We're yelled at or scorned or mocked by the world, by our friends, by our employers, by children of yours. We don't have these answers. But Lord, calm us in the storm that we call life and keep us on point. Lord, this world promises good things. It even promises great things. But none are as great as your promises. Help us look towards your promises this week and find peace in being your adopted children. Give us strength when we don't have the answers and the world is looking for it. Give us strength to trust in you, have faith in you, and give our lives to you. Lord, when we are asked to do the impossible, give us the wisdom, the strength, and the power to do it. Not for our glory, but for yours, so that others will know who you are through our actions. Lord, let us not make rules and regulations that we can't abide by ourselves for others. Help us to extend grace and mercy to others as you have extended it to us through your Son. It is in the name of Jesus the Christ we come to you in prayer.